Assalamualaikum family, Brother Landon X, this is Sister Shauna Joy X, Revolutionary Relationships. We're going to deal with that point that you see in the caption. Are men allowed to be emotional, particularly when it comes to relationships? We're going to jump on that because I think this is something that we need to talk about. And we're going to deal with it real quick. So let's get it.
To deliver this message.
Assalamualaikum family, it's your brother Landon X, and this is of course Sister Shauna Joy X, and this is Revolutionary Relationships. We're going to deal with a topic that's kind of heavy, but it's necessary. This wonderful sister to my right, she chose this topic, and if it's any particular topic that y'all would like to see us deal with on Revolutionary Relationships, then go ahead and hit us up and let us know. I promise we won't be on long because I actually have another engagement to do this time around. But we will get to this and deal with it. Again, we're asking the question, are men allowed to be emotional in this day and age and in this in the climate, the relationship climate that we in? But first, let me start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are forever due. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, but let me be right and exact and down to the modern times when I say that the messenger of Allah, at minimum, is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, therefore fulfilling the scripture in the Holy Quran that says certainly a messenger will be raised for every nation. All you have to do is check Surah 16, Ayat 36, as well as Surah 10, Ayat 47. But in Surah 14, Ayat 4, it also says that that messenger would speak the language of that people. And it's not just talking about language as far as words, as far as English, Spanish, Arabic, but the language meaning he would be someone that would be able to empathize with the sojourn of that people. And I would know nothing of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Master Fard Muhammad if it were not for the majestic leadership, the teaching, and the guidance of this wonderful man, our divine leader, teacher, guide, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And those three great names, I greet all the Nation Town family. In the words of peace, we said in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Shout out to everybody chiming in. Definitely hit us up with all your questions and comments. If you would, just to go ahead and check the comments.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on
so
that
we can
one.
speak on. I'm sure you should be able to check it right there.
Yeah, not quite.
And you can. There it is. You're not able to click on that.
No.
Where it says comments.
Hi.
Okay. All right. So hit us up. Questions and comments. Give us a shout out. As always, you are wa alaikum salam, Brother Hakeem. As always, dear family, this is Nation Town TV. You are watching Revolutionary Relationships, which is brought to you by NationTownStore.com. Once again, shout out to all the consistent support on NationTownStore.com. It's some black folks out there that really believe in separation, man, because y'all been showing us a lot of love on NationTownStore.com. But it's also brought to you by DoForSelf.net, which is an online learning annex that we're going to be updating, a major update very soon. DoForSelf.net is 100% free. Go ahead and check it out and learn something, inshallah. But also, hit us up, show us some love on Cash App, $NationTown. Y'all been supporting us a lot with this. We appreciate it. Your support goes directly to an independent, black-owned platform, but also 10% of your support on Cash App will go to the Yes Ma'am program, Meal and a Message, where we basically provide meals as well as personal care products to our beloved family in need, whether they're homeless or not. Right. So definitely show us some love on Nation Town, $Nation Town on Cash App. So with that said, family, we're going to get right into it. Again, we're dealing with the question of whether or not the black man, the Aboriginal man, whether he's allowed to be emotional. Now, there's a reason why this was a topic to deal with, because as my wife pointed out to me, there's an influx of talk about this kind of subject. I found a meme that I found to be funny. It's a little bit of levity because some of the things we're going to get into real quick today are kind of deep. So we're going to start off with a little bit of levity. This is a meme that I saw on social media that uses SpongeBob SquarePants image. It says, when you're depressed AF, we should all know what AF means. It ain't necessarily family friendly, but you know what it means. When you're depressed, as you know what, but you're a guy, so nobody cares. Aww. So what we're dealing with today is whether or not that's fair, and whether or not that's something that it should be that way. Do we just deserve it to be that way? Have we been such evil creatures that we deserve to be overlooked? Is it soft for a man to be emotional? Is it non-masculine for a man to be emotional? We're not asking should a man have emotions. That's predetermined. Right. Of course you have emotions. And keep in mind, emotions run the gamut. It's not just emotions as far as being sad, being depressed. You can also be extremely happy, extremely angry, extremely aggressive. These are all emotions. But I'm going to go ahead and let my wife also hit you with the salutations.
Hey now, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises are forever due. I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the exalted Christ and first begotten of the dead, and that the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Messiah, the Son of Man, Jesus in our midst. And it is in those three great, holy, most beautiful, and righteous names, I can go on all day, that I greet you all in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all so very much for joining us. I saw this on social media, and I'm not on too much. So when I see something really trending like that, that's like outside of social events that's happening in the world, it kind of stood out to me. And that was one of the same image or meme that my husband just posted on the screen, was the one of the most recent ones that I saw, and it hit me. I was like, oh, Mr. Krabs looks so sad. And it just brought me back to previous tweets and posts that I saw, and I'm like, wow, if that's a thing, that's really sad, and it's hurtful if men are really feeling as though they can't express their emotions. Because I know me, I'm an emotional person, and I choose not to really. Don't be shaking your head. I choose not to express my emotions with everyone. I don't wear it on my sleeve, but with my closest, my husband, my family, my closest friends, then yes, you want to be able to be vulnerable, and you want to be able to express your emotions. And that's a terrible feeling when you feel as though you have no one, you can't just release and be yourself. So, for a large part of our population, the Black man, and knowing what they go through on a daily basis, the battles that they face outside of their home. And then, of course, we know, because we're not living in a perfect world, and us as sisters, we have not been raised up in the proper way to be able to properly deal and console our men, our brothers, and our spouses, or if you're, your boyfriend, whoever. So I know that when they come home, you're dealing with battles as well. To be able to sit there, I'm really going back to the imagery, by yourself, and just feel like, man, I don't have anyone. I'm just crying in the dark. It made me also think of, what's the book, Eric Jerome Dickey, Men Cry in the Dark. You remember that? That's back in the day.
For it.
What'd you say?
I said, I'll take your word for it.
Yes, it brought me back to that. And, so I wanted to definitely address the issue, because we have to heal each other. We have to be here for each other as a people, especially the Black man and the Black woman, because we're not going anywhere without each other. So wanted to go ahead and bring that topic up to the people and get your take on it, and see if we can shed some light on the issue, and maybe come to some type of understanding and consolation for anyone who may be feeling that way.
All praises due to Allah. And again, shout out to everybody chiming in. Make sure you hit us up, questions or comments. Hit the like button, hit the mad button. If you mad, brother, show those emotions. However you feel, but make sure that you share. This is a
safe place.
Make sure you share this message. Share. And we'll be reminding you in the comment section as well to share this message and get it out there. Because this is an important topic. I agree. It's not something that's really advertised. And unfortunately, we're people, particularly Black people, male and female, where so much of what we do, so much of what we give our attention to, so much of what we follow up on is all based on what we're told to do by the media. Right. So if the media and the news, if your favorite TV show is not telling you to be concerned with this matter or the next, then you won't be. For example, there are a lot of Black men that are coming out and just saying, hey, man, we got feelings too. And then on the flip side, you have sisters saying, hey, we feel disrespected and unprotected. Well, then if you pay attention to the media, where do you see either one of those things being perpetuated? You don't see it. You don't see the protection and respect of the Black woman being perpetuated in the media. Right. So therefore, we don't do it. And you also see the cries and the claims and cries. It's a legitimate claim from the women that they're unprotected or disrespected. So that promotes it. That promotes that dissatisfaction. And then with men, it's the same thing with men that are saying that nobody considers our feelings. There's nothing that considers our feelings on TV. We're always the villain on television. We're always the bad guy. And on one end, we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be protective. we're supposed to be all these strong, masculine things. But at the same time, don't be masculine, because masculinity is toxic.
Right.
So we kind of stuck in the middle of the highway, getting hit by 13, 14 cars, not sure whether we should get out the street or get on the sidewalk. If we get on the sidewalk, then we're a punk, we're weak, we're inactive, we're not protecting. If we get in the middle of the street and stop traffic, then we're a problem. So it's a lot of mixed messages being sent, particularly to black men, and that's what we want to touch on. Now, in giving this some thought after my wife brought this topic to the forefront, shout out to everybody chiming in. But when she brought this up, I came to the realization that there are basically two reasons why it appears to be a lack of compassion for the black man, the Aboriginal man's feelings, or him being emotional. And there's a negative reason, and I feel there's a natural reason. The negative reason and the natural reason. We're going to start off with the natural reason. Well, one main reason, in my humble opinion, that our emotions and our feelings are kind of dismissed, is because of the natural God-given post that we were put on to be the maintainers of women. As it says in the Holy Quran, Surah 4, Ayat 34, it says that men are the maintainers of women. And I'm gonna explain that to the sisters that are watching this who may not be familiar with the Holy Quran, or that may be a part of the Holy Quran that makes you cringe. Sister, don't leave me like they say on that one meme. We're going to talk about that real quick. But men are the maintainers of women. With what Allah has made some of them to excel others, and with what they spend out of their wealth. So the good women are obedient, guarding the unseen. Now, those are fighting words in this day and age. And that's a part of the problem. Why is that fighting words? Why is it wrong for a man to be a maintainer? It does not mean a dominator. It does not mean someone who just, and I want to emphasize the first word. Men are maintainers, not niggas, not just your baby daddy, not the nigga across the street, not them Negroes, not old boy, not this, not that. Men, it's not a gender. It's not a gender. I don't want to further confuse us on gender these days, but men, being a man is not so much a gender as it is a title. Only a male can be a man, please believe, but it's a title more so than just being a gender. Every male is not a man. So a lot of sisters who are uncomfortable by that verbiage, man is a maintainer and women are to be obedient, it's probably because there's a lack of men in your personal experience. But think about the maintenance man of a building. Let's say you walk into, it's a lot more sisters in the corporate world than there are men, black men. So the sisters can definitely relate to this. Let's say you go to work, or wherever you work, that good job that you got, dear sister, and think about the maintenance man in that building. He's that brother or whoever, usually a man, got all them keys on his belt. He's got that work suit on, usually like khaki or blue suit on, and he just kind of, he's usually the only guy in the building that doesn't have a shirt and a tie on. He's the one you call when somebody makes a mess, or when the elevator doesn't work, or whatever the case may be. It's not a very glamorous position. But when things are broken in the building, that's who you call. You don't get the head of marketing to come and fix the elevator. You don't get the sister that's running the PR department or whatever, the vice president of the company, to come and fix those things. You call the maintenance man. He's probably the lowest paid individual in the building. He usually doesn't have some fancy corner office, but it's an important position because when things are not working in that building, he's the one you call. So that's the natural reason. For the fact that there's not a lot of compassion for us, because we're supposed to be the maintainers. Think about, and I'll say this before I give my wife's opinion on it, but think about this. When you go to someone who has a specific title, a specific function, you don't think about their own. When you go to get your car fixed and you go to the mechanic, you're not really concerned about whether, his car is running good. You only came to him to get your car up. So there's a lack of compassion for him and his car. When you go to the bank to speak to a banker about a loan or whatever, you're not concerned about his bank account. You're there to talk about your bank account and what that bank can do for you. So there's a lack of compassion for that banker and his personal finances. You go to a chef, you go to a restaurant, you're not concerned with what his refrigerator is looking like or what he's going to have for dinner that night. You're just concerned with what he's going to make for you. So there's not a lot of concern for someone that has a very functional title. However, here's my question that I'm going to pose to my wife and to all the sisters that are watching this or may watch this. Should you be concerned? If you're thinking logically, you probably should be concerned of what condition the mechanic's car is in. Because if his car's condition is sitting on the side of the road and not functional, and he can't even fix his own damn car, what is he going to do for yours, sister? That chef. If he's eating McDonald's every night and he can hardly cook for himself, why should you trust him on your food? Same thing with the banker. If his own bank account has a negative balance, he got a 2-digit credit score, what can he do for you and your finances? So you really should be concerned, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So, dear sister, Shauna Joy, how do you feel? Do you think women should be even concerned with the emotions of a man and how he feels?
Most definitely. I definitely think that we should be concerned. We're taught you move from life to death when you love the brotherhood or the sisterhood. And we're taught that you want for your brother or your sister what you want for yourself. So, if you are, especially us as women, we're very much concerned. You don't understand how I feel. We're always concerned about our feelings. We're always concerned about our emotions, and we're very quick. And I'll speak for myself. I'm very quick to say that you don't understand. You're not acknowledging my emotion. So we have to have the feeling of wanting to not just have our own emotions and our own feelings satisfied and understood, but it has to be reciprocated. And that might be the reason why women, sometimes some of us feel as though we are not getting our needs met in that aspect because we're not meeting their needs as well. And that goes back to what my husband said. If you go to a mechanic, you're not concerned about their car. But in the flip side, with the emotions, we should most definitely be concerned about their emotional state of being, because it affects how they take care of themselves, how they take care of you as a wife, as a spouse, how they take care of the children and the family, and it affects just everything else outwardly. But I feel as though one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why we may not be concerned is the same reason you wouldn't be concerned. I wouldn't be concerned if I went to a mechanic, because I don't know how to fix a car. So I'm not even thinking about what your car is looking like. That's why I'm coming to you. So we as sisters, as women, we're like we've been taught, we have not been the knowledge and the teaching of mating, the knowledge and the teaching of warfare and economics, business has been kept from us. So because we have a lack of knowledge on how to address someone else's, especially our men's emotional state, then it's like we backing off from that. I feel as though that is one of the main reasons why you're saying some of us may feel as though, no, you can't be emotional. It's not that you can't be emotional, but it's that I don't know as a woman. I have not been taught and trained as a woman how to handle your natural emotions, because they're natural. We don't want to kill emotions. We're not supposed to not have emotions. We have them. God gave them to us. But And if he gave them to us, we need to know how to address those things. But I feel as though a lot of women, because we don't have the knowledge how to properly address the emotional state of our man, instead of acknowledging that and dealing with that issue, we just say, oh no, you can't be emotional. And that's a defense mechanism for us because of what we're lacking.
Absolutely. And then it turns into a standoff. It reminds me of those old generic westerns where they say the town's not big enough for the both of us. It's sometimes when men show any bit of emotion, the response is usually, it's only room for one emotional person in this relationship. Right. So you gonna have to kind of fold yours up and just deal with it. That's the sentiment that's kind of thrown toward men. But to what my wife was saying about how the woman does not know, well, let me give you this analogy. This is for the sisters, just to help you, because you obviously don't know. That's a art and a science that was taken from us in slavery. We're going to talk a little bit about slavery in a moment. But here's something to consider. If you don't know, then tread lightly. Because here's the thing. The reason why we walk like we walk with so much confidence, even though the earth is currently spinning at the speed of 1,037 1/3 miles per hour, we don't even think about it because gravity doesn't make it an issue with us. But if you had any doubts about the foundation of the floor that you're stepping on, you would refrain from stepping on it. You wouldn't get on ice if you thought that there was a chance that it might be thin ice. Because you want to know what's undergirding it, how tough is it, how strong is it? And if a man appears to not be very emotionally intact, or he seems to have any issues, and we show it in many ways, you're not gonna find a man with his head down crying all the time. You're not gonna see that. Sometimes when he's getting real angry, that's emotion too. If he's extremely argumentative, if he's extremely just passive and kind of nonchalant and just not active in whatever it is that you're trying to do, that might mean that you're dealing with a shaky foundation. So if you see something that might be shaky, you wouldn't cross a bridge that was 1,000 feet in the air if you didn't think that it would be able to hold you up long enough to get to the other side. But what I see is a lot of black men and Aboriginal men showing a lot of signs of mental and emotional instability, but they still get stepped on, not just by the black woman, but also just by the world. And then when you step on us and you fall through and bust your behind, it's the man's fault, even though it was kind of clear that he was a shaky bridge. Now, like I said, there are two reasons why there's a lack of compassion. It's a natural reason and a negative reason. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Let's make sure we checking for the comments, refreshing for that. Hit us with the comments. Keep in mind, revolutionary relations is an interactive conversation. It's not about, it ain't neither one of us, like Gladys Knight say, is a expert. We just happen to be in a revolutionary relationship. We try to bring back that science of war and that science of mating and the science of business.
That's right.
But bringing that back by, that's one of the most revolutionary things you can do is be in an Aboriginal relationship and try to love a black man or a black woman. But the negative side of that lack of compassion is the fact that it's by design. And I'm really talking to my brothers now, because brothers, you have to understand, she was trained. She was trained in slavery to not really care about your feelings. If you read the Willie Lynch letter, and the Willie Lynch letter is 100% factual in its account of the making of a slave. It doesn't matter if Willie Lynch himself ever existed, but common sense tells you that every aspect of it was absolutely real, and there is documented proof of it. So you have to understand, when we were made into slaves, everything they did, even to our the way they disciplined us, was very intentional. As you can see right now, that crowd in the back are slaves. There was only 2 times a slave really got a break from working from can't see at night to can't see in the morning, and that was either on Christmas or when one of the male slaves was being whipped, because they gathered everybody around and they made sure the sisters were in the front. They made sure the sisters were in the front. But when you were on the plantation and you saw this kind of discipline, it wasn't so you could feel sorry for the brother being whipped. It was so you could see that they did something wrong. The slave, the brother, he did something wrong. They're not trying to point out that something wrong is being done to him or was done to him. That's not the point they're trying to prove. They're trying to prove that he did something wrong. And they want to deter you as another slave not to do the same thing. So to this very day, through what they call epigenetics, which is the passing down of trauma from years past, that epigenetics is working perfectly, because now with the black man, nobody cares about the cause. Everybody only cares about the effect. Oh, that black man said this to that sister. Nobody says, well, why did he say, what did he grow up seeing that made him want to say something to that black woman like that? Especially considering that in the last 40 years, 70% or more of black households have been headed by black women. So maybe it was something in the way he was raised that made him do that, but nobody cares about that. We only care that he did something wrong. He said something that was politically incorrect. He did something that was politically incorrect. Therefore, he deserved. That's what you have. That's what you run into. You run into a situation where people are only concerned with what we did wrong, not why we did it, not what we went through that made us like that. So now what you see is we have a cry for help. We have different cries for help as men, but nobody answers it because we're not trained. Our sisters are not trained to answer it. The only thing that they're trained to wonder is, what did he do wrong? So even if his cry for help is being angry, no man should ever be disrespectful to a woman. He definitely shouldn't put his hands on a woman. But nobody asked that question. Nobody even asked, even if he's, which I don't believe that any Aboriginal man or woman is irredeemable. Just like Master Father Muhammad believed that we were all redeemable. I believe that too. But even if you do cut him off and you cast him off, you have to think, okay, what can I do about all the little boys that will be men tomorrow? How can we keep them from being like him? Nobody asked that question. So you keep running into the same situation over and over again. That's why it's important to know what's going on in a man's emotions. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep running into the same kind of man over and over again, because you don't know how to help them or how to fix it. So you're just going to keep running. Like, for example, going back to the mechanic analogy, let's say your car, you don't put any oil in it. You don't take any care of it. And then now all of a sudden the engine is knocking and then the engine fails. Now it's easy for a sister to just say, okay, this car is done. You know, it's no good. Let me go get another car, which is going to be expensive. It's going to be a hassle. But sister, if you got it like that, you'll go ahead and get it. But then a couple of years later, you went 2 years without putting oil in it. Now this perfectly good car that was perfectly good a couple of years ago, the engine is knocking and now it's no good. So you keep running, you spending thousands and thousands of dollars because you are forgetting that there's a maintenance involved. Now, women are not the maintainers of men, but they can be and should be the consolers, the lubrication, so to speak, to that man. Because we're going to work just like an engine. We're going to work, we're going to work, we're going to work. Those pistons are going to be firing. But who's lubricating us? Who's keeping us, you know, in a smooth situation where that friction is not building up? They call it viscosity breakdown. I'm not a mechanic. I've had a lot of raggedy cars in my years. So that's something to consider. That's the negative side of it. And that's just the fact that our women are indeed trained to be dismissive of our emotions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we have. I want to give a few shout outs to some of our beloved viewers tuning in. Sister Kawansa X Smith. Assalamu alaikum, beloved. West Side. And we have Brother Terrence Carson. Wow, Alaikum Salam, Brother Terrence. Moss number 94. Go ahead. Brother Hakeem. Sister Linda Nzinga, excuse me. Latoya Dean. Antisha Hall, my sister, thank you for tuning in again. She is a top viewer. And Brother Jerome Blakely. We also have a comment from Sister Ina X Robinson. She says, brother, what do you think about testing a brother's temper early in the relationship? I mean, really, do something to make him angry.
You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan warned the brothers that a woman out of her nature will test us. So, sister, I don't think you need to or have to, come up with some kind of skit to anger this man. It's really in your nature to kind of test him and try him. I love analogies. The Jesus of your Bible and the Jesus of today, if you understand, uses a lot of analogies. So I like to use them. But they going back to cars. I don't know why I got cars on my mind today. But, if you ever seen somebody kick tires, you kick the tires to see what the actual, what the inflation is. You can use the actual, air pressure gauge. But, if you really have a knowledge of cars, you can just kick the tires to just see if they're in good shape. So sometimes you want to make sure that something is in good shape. But the way Allah made y'all going to do things that even it's really subconscious. Y'all going to say things and do things. That doesn't mean, now don't use that as an excuse to be ignorant. Let me say that again. Don't use that as an excuse. Oh, yeah, I stabbed him 4 times, baby. The minister said that's it. No, stop. But in any situation where there's disagreement, the sister is going to say something or do something that will irritate that man. And you're going to have disagreement. You disagree with your mama. You disagree with your best friend. What makes you think you're not going to disagree with your man, or the man is not going to disagree with the woman? So that's kind of automatic. Don't lean on that and try to find extra ways. Let me find extra ways to see. Now you got a GMO relationship, because that's what GMO does with fruits and vegetables. Is you're not satisfied with the way God allows a pepper or an onion or some beans to grow. You want to speed it up, and you want the watermelons to be 3 times the normal size. So you stick chemicals into it to make it bigger, and those chemicals harm the people that eat that vegetable. So don't have a GMO relationship where you throwing in extra obstacles. I always tell brothers, I refrain from trying to tell sisters that I have no authority or relationship to what to do. So when I'm talking to brothers, I always tell a brother, don't add any extra obstacles to your relationships, because it's going to be plenty built in. That's why it's good for us it's almost mandatory for us to be equally yoked with the women that we're involved with and that we're courting and that we married to, because you don't want any extra obstacles. Why marry somebody who has a completely different idea of God than you do, when it's already going to be, even if y'all have the exact same idea of God, or the same exact favorite types of everything else, but if you add something to it, that just makes it harder. So that's not really necessary, sister. You're going to do it automatically. It's in your nature. You're going to do things and say things that are going to irritate that brother. But when you have irritated him, you want to take a look at that. Even in the courtship, ask questions. That's why the questions, I don't believe in the courtship manual. Again, if y'all want the courtship manual, definitely hit us up by sending us a direct message. But even in the courtship manual, it points out to ask any question that comes to mind. You have every right, sister and brother, to ask any question that comes to mind. The only rule that you want to follow is that when the courtship is over, whether there's only 2 ways for the courtship to end, either by marriage or engagement, or you just both realize that this is not going to work out as far as being, and that's a good outcome. Getting married is a great outcome. Not getting married is a great outcome. That means y'all did the math and realized, okay, this is not really a good match right now. but ask as many questions as possible, and even lean toward the uncomfortable questions. You have a right to ask them. Just if it doesn't work out, or even in the midst of the courtship, don't go running and telling don't go to Facebook, don't go to Instagram, don't go to none of this stuff, talking about the brother or slack talking about him. And same thing with the brothers. That's the only thing. But you have the right to ask any question. And if he gets a little irritated by that, pay attention. Pay attention to his discomfort and how he handles that discomfort. But don't play games to irritate him on purpose. You don't have to. It's natural, sister. All you gotta do is just go with the natural flow of things, and you're gonna do something that's gonna piss him off. Yes, sir.
No, I definitely agree. And except for my husband's courtship, but a previous courtship, like, we are naturally going to say things and do things, and you have all the best intentions. You're not trying to push any buttons, and it's going to reveal things about their temperament and their anger. I asked the brother a question that he obviously thought was too personal at the time, but for me, no, I need to know the answer to this question now, because that's going to determine how and if we are going to move any further. And his whole reaction, he didn't want to answer the question. He said, that's the type of question you ask somebody in person, sister. Oh, really? Okay. So your indecision, you're not even wanting to answer the question, spoke volumes to me. So we don't have to, do anything extra or intentional. It's going to happen. But like my husband said, take good note. Take good note of their response and how they react when those instances and those situations do happen.
Praise be to Allah. Hit us up with your questions and comments. We're not going to be on much longer. A couple of things I want to cover. First of all, if you do not already own it, make sure you go to store.finalcall.com and get your copy of the study guide. Self-improvement is the basis of community development, because we're going to talk about real quick. We're just going to cover something where it kind of clears up some technicalities of emotion. As you can see right there, it says emotion is intensified feeling. It can become so strong and overpowering that it masters the mind or judgment. Masters the mind or judgment. And then it says, though love is generally defined as an emotion, I would say, this is the minister speaking, I would say that love is not an emotion. Love is the mother of emotion. Love is the creative force out of which all things come. Love can be broken down into 4 principles: freedom, justice, equality, and obedience to the will of Allah God. We call our intense feeling of like or dislike love and hate. But love is not just an intense feeling. That is a limitation that this world has placed on it, making it our emotional reaction to something. So that's something I wanted to really point out, because my wife brought up earlier about sisters not knowing how to deal with a man's or fix a man's emotion. But if you read that along with me clearly, then the minister just gave our sisters the ingredients, and it's love, real love, not necessarily just a pat on the back or nothing like that. But love is duty, so teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it's the mother of emotion. And mama can always put things in check. So if you use real love, and Sister Ava Muhammad has a book by that same title, Real Love, and she goes into the science of love and what it really means. When you show a man real love, which is backed up by duty, when he goes out into a world full of disrespect, full of being undermined and underappreciated, being worked like a dog, being worked like a slave, and then he comes home and he sees somebody that's dutiful to his marriage, dutiful to his household, and most of all, dutiful to him, that charges him up and allows him to be a better man from top to bottom. But if we're not giving him that much, then we're going to have an issue with that man, and he's going to show all those signs. And like the first part that I read said, emotion can master the mind and the judgment. It's a lot of men out here, especially today, whose minds are mastered by emotion. You can even take it not just in relationships. You can take it into the streets. Almost all of the gang violence and the so-called black on black violence is based on emotion. Brother felt like he got disrespected. You disrespected his set. It's all about his reputation and this, that, and the other. So he shoots up the whole block. Probably doesn't even hit his intended target. Hits a little baby or whatever the case may be, over emotion and the fact that emotion has mastered his mind. Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to give from the sister's perspective some clarity on like what my husband was talking about, love. That is absolutely correct. Love is what's going to help us as sisters to be able to be there and be that consoler for our husband. But what we want to realize, the first love that we have to be able to properly love our husbands is first and foremost to have love for Allah God. And second of all, have love for yourself. And when we start with Allah, we can't, when you love Allah and you are gaining that knowledge of Allah God and the knowledge of yourself, you're going to automatically fall into that proper role as a consoler and the proper helpmeet for your spouse. Because if we're looking at that man, this man that has been beaten down, he's broken just like we are, and has been destroyed like we are, we're going to be easy to find faults. It's going to be easy to find dissatisfaction within him, and that's going to make it easy for you to be like, oh, I can't even do it. I ain't even got it for you. But if we focus our love on the God and the role, wanting to please him and wanting to fulfill the role in which we were blessed to be born as the second self and the co-creator in the woman, then we're going to fulfill those roles automatically, trying to be pleasing and trying to give love and gain love from the God. So let's not, sisters, we don't want to focus and say, oh, let me just love him, because, he's imperfect and we're imperfect, but the God is perfection, and we make Allah God the center of our life and the center of our love. We're going to be able to find ourselves not out of love, let me go ahead and cook and clean and be the perfect wife for him, but out of love for the God. And then that's going to translate into love for your husband, because you're going to have the understanding, for one, that he's imperfect, but God is not. God is perfection, and we're fulfilling our role and our duty to Allah God. And in fulfilling your role and your duty to him, you're not going to be able to deviate from him, because he's perfection and he gave you life, and we were born in debt to the God. So I can't slack on my role as a wife, a consoler, we're also maintainers, because I know that I would be slacking on the God and I'm in debt to him. But if I put it in the sight of my husband, oh, he's going to come home and he's going to do something or say something unintentionally or intentionally that's going to hurt me and give me the excuse to say, oh, forget it. You know what I'm saying? No, I don't even care. But so we have to make sure that we're fulfilling our duty to Allah and fulfilling our duty to ourselves, and take care of ourselves, so that we can take care of him and maintain him as well, and be the helpmeet and the consoler and the confidant, companion, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's a proper it's a balance and a proper alignment that has to come, and you can't skip gradient on that. We can't skip gradient on that.
Absolutely. And speaking of God, we just got to change our mindset. That's why we call this revolutionary relationships, because the way we've been raised the last 40 or 50 years is that your black man, sister, and brother, your black woman, your Aboriginal woman, Aboriginal man is an option. I was watching some on television where this surgeon was speaking, and he said one of the hardest things he has to do as a surgeon, he said it was harder to go to a diabetic patient and tell them that they were going to lose their leg or their arm than it was for him to go and tell a family that their loved one had passed away. I was like, wow. And that's because we get so used to our arm, our leg, these parts of our body where we So even when those parts of our body have become detrimental to our health, we still don't want to get rid of it. Y'all probably saw that picture of Dr. Dre from Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, and his leg was such terrible. It looked like it needed to be cut off right there. Not Dr. Dre, the rapper, but Dr. Dre, the TV personality. And that's how it gets. We got to start looking at each other like that as men and women. We don't look at each other like that. Some of the smartest of us, the most spiritual of us, we don't see the opposite sex. We don't see our man or our woman as a part of us. That's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches the men that, brother, if you're not married or trying to get married, you're operating handicapped. You're like a man with one leg. You're like a man with one part of your body. And we don't see our relationships like that, men or women. We don't see it like it's an option. I could be single, I could not be. I could be married, I could not be. I mean, if you haven't found that person, you still got to live. But we're taught that it's just an option. It's just something that you could do or not do. Like, okay, you could eat at Long John Silver's, you could go to Taco Bell. It's not something that's really seen as something that's fused with your body and something that you need and that you're used to, and it's a part of natural life. We don't see it as being that natural, so we're easy to give up on it or disrespect it as soon as it becomes uncomfortable. But you got people who literally have dead limbs and they are very hesitant to get rid of it. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on when it comes to caring for a man, sisters, you know, I don't want to see, as a man, let me be clear about this. I don't want to see a society where everybody feeling sorry for the black man, everybody crying for black men. That's not what I want to see as a black man. That's not, you know, we should be tough. We should be strong. But even if you can't see us as emotional beings and you see us as machines and we just work, provide, well, hell, man, they got engineers at every plant. They got engineers at every factory that oversee and maintain and take care of the machines that make, sisters, when you ordered those 13 Amazon products that you didn't need last week, in spite of the minister's instructions, there was a machine that put that whole thing together. Not a human being. It was a human being that dropped it off. Now they got drones that drop them off. But all these machines need care. So even if you see us as a machine, understand machines have to be lubricated. Machines have to be checked on. You have to make sure that they operate in the way that they are. And it's not about just petting us and, like my wife said, cooking and cleaning. Hell, you do that for a dog. And we're not dogs. You know, let's stop calling us that. Because it starts, and men got to stop calling the woman a bitch. Because you start programming your mind. So if I'm a dog and she's a bitch, then that means we think that we are doing everything we can when we do what we do for a dog. Oh, I clean it up when it make a mess and I feed it. What else you want me to do? That's so much more. We're not a dog. A dog is a lot easier than a man. A dog is a lot easier than a woman. But you're supposed to be a grown man and a grown woman, so take on that responsibility. And do we have any questions or comments? Because I'm going to bring up something now that's kind of sobering and it's very serious. Do we have a comment? Go ahead.
Yes, we have our sister, Ina X. Robinson. She says, yes. And I think it goes both ways, that once you get tired of being alone because of whatever attitude you may have, you learn to adjust and think about the other person's feelings. You learn to love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me show you this real quick. We're not going to be on much longer, so if you have any questions or comments, you want to get them in as soon as possible, because I do have another engagement that I have to be involved with. But I wanted to show y'all this. I had to show y'all this. It really broke my heart when I saw it. I hope you can read this. This is a American Association of Suicideology, African American suicide fact sheet based on 2014 data, which is some of the most recent information that they have. It says in the overview, and pay attention to this, in 2014, 2,421 African American died by suicide. Of these, 1,946, which is almost all of them, were black men. Over 80% of black suicides were black men. Let me say that again. 80%, over 80%, 80.38% of all black suicides were black men. The overall suicide rate per 100,000 was 5.46. In that same year, there were 475 African-American female suicides in the U.S. The suicide rate of African-American females was the lowest among men and women of all ethnicities. Now, after seeing that, you got to ask yourself a question. What's going on? Because that's a problem. Sister, I don't care how you've been treated by men in the past. I know it's a man somewhere on this earth that you care about. Or you have a son. And no matter how you raise him, you can raise him to put on all the dresses and tutus and makeup and all of that. You can go full Dwayne Wade with your son, but he's still a man at the end of the day. So you got to ask yourself, what is going on that 80% of black suicides are black men? Now, when you hear that, it's a new trend that you hear on social media about self-care, how self-care is so important. But every time you hear that, that's always attributed to women. So men, we have a little bit of responsibility to make sure that we care for ourselves, but not in a selfish way. Doing for self is not selfish. I'm going to say that again. Doing for self is not selfish. Sometimes self-care is caring about how others deal with you and being strong enough and bold enough to speak up. I know it's difficult in this day and age because if a man raises his voice, that's how you know that we are coming out of households 80%, 70, 80% ran by women, and that there are more women in the political world and the business world than men, black men. So we're at a point, we're at a subservience state now where we're not even allowed to speak up without being called toxic. But brother, you got to speak up and just say, hey, that's not good for my self-care. And when you got a woman that's close to you, you got to be able to talk to her. And sister, you got to be able to listen. If you can't listen to him and you just see him as a block of meat that you do whatever you want with, or he's no more than a dog, a little puppy, then you probably need to sever that relationship and refrain from being in a relationship with anybody until you change that mindset. Because not only are 80% of black suicides black men, but that's not even counting the slower sides. Because there's a lot of black men that are slowly killing themselves on purpose, smoking anything, drinking anything, laying down with anything, living these reckless lives that are slowly killing them. So if you add that to it, then that probably will bump it up to 90 or 95%. So we're not in good shape, sister. And if you see us as a machine, then somebody gotta do some maintenance on that machine, or at least allow us to maintain ourselves without being charged with being toxic. Right. And you want to comment? We only have about a few more minutes, so hit us up with questions or comments.
And you know, if you're not aware, because like we mentioned, you know, I'm blessed to be an MGT, Muslim Girl Training in General Civilization class. So we're being taught, we are being reared up and trained properly now, you know. But if we don't know how to comfort and how to console, you know how you want to be comforted. You know how you would like to be consoled. So if you don't know how he wants to, at least try, put forth an effort and do what you would like. If you don't know, ask, what can I do for you? How do you feel? Is there anything that you would like from me? Just ask. We have to at least put forth an effort. And those are the two easiest ways that we can put forth an effort and show that we at least care.
Absolutely. And another problem is that there's an enemy that we should see, but we don't see, that's trying to change our roles. Mm. And he's putting some of the onus on the woman that should be on the man. He's telling the black woman that if you go to your black man and ask him, You know, what's wrong? How can I help? That makes you less of a woman. Because black women are being trained by society and even in their household right now that their womanhood is measured by how strong they are without the black man. Not just without men. You know, leave your little white girlfriend alone. Leave your little white friend alone. Y'all not speaking the same language when it comes to your disappointment in men. Because her disappointment with men is that the white men, the powerful white men are not giving her the same job, right, that they have. You don't have that problem. A lot of the sisters that are watching this and will watch this, you probably never had an issue with a black man, a straight heterosexual black man at your job, being chosen over you. It's always either a homosexual black man or a Caucasian. You're not in competition with us in this world. So that's her problem, not yours. So when black women are told that you're strong and independent, they're talking about her being independent of the black man. Let's just keep it real. They're not talking about you being independent of men in general or the male power structure, because the American power structure is still, make no mistake about it, 100% male dominated. So now they're teaching you how to be a helpmeet to their world. Women are still being trained to be subservient and be helpmeets and be consolers. But who are you consoling? Whose world are you the wife of? Whose wife are you? Are you of the black man or the white man in his world? Who are you consoling? Who are you backing up? Whose team are you on? Talking all this stuff about team this, team that. Whose team are you on and whose team are you been trained to be on? When you're trained to be on somebody else's team, as soon as that Negro acts up, you ready to go. Because that's not the team that you were trained to be a part of anyway. So why should you even waste your time with this brother? Why should you even waste your time? And let me say this about the male, and women have to remember this. Men gravitate toward the things that empower them. I'm going to say that again. Men naturally gravitate to things that empower them. You sometimes get confused about how men are joining gangs. Men are doing all these weird things and all of this. That's because they feel like it empowers them. No matter how ignorant it is or how righteous it is, men are attracted to things that make them feel empowered. So if you're holding up the mantle of disempowering the black man or making the black man weaker than he's supposed to be, that's never going to be something that's attractive to a black man unless he covers up that lack of attraction for his own sexual appetite. And a lot of times sisters can't tell the difference between a man that's really interested in you or somebody that's just trying to get up in there and get up out of there. And keep in mind, we're taught in the Nation of Islam that Allah God created himself out of triple darkness. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Allah God went to war with the darkness in his self-creation. And after he was successful in that war, he studied himself for trillions more years to create his second self, which is the black woman. So think about that. Think about that. He went to war with himself and with the darkness and realized that, man, the next man that I create, I have to make it where they don't have to do this alone like I did. This is God talking. So he made sure he created the woman. So we are two sides to one coin that have to be together for that coin to have value. For that coin to have value. So we have to remember that. And I think we have a comment, if we have a comment, because we have to get out of here very quickly, but go ahead.
Yes, we have a beautiful comment. Keep on commenting, Sister Ina. She says, like our national MGT captain says, take good care of that black man. And taking good care of the black man is taking care of yourself and vice versa. So we have to strive hard to learn how to do for each other and to strengthen our relationship with the God and our knowledge of self so that we can do so effortlessly.
Just imagine a man or woman that cares nothing about their body. So they eat whatever they want to eat. They don't care about their weight. They don't care about their health. And, you know, and as soon as they wake up one day and their arm is numb, they cut it off. And then as soon as they wake up the next day and their left arm is numb, they cut it off. Their right leg, their right foot, their left foot, their right big toe, as soon as any part of their body becomes inconvenient to them, they just cut it off. After a while, there's nothing left but a torso and a big old head. That's what we look like. That's why our households look so terrible. That's why we keep asking the question, why don't relationships last like they used to and grandma and them? Because we just rolling around as a torso. No disrespect to any quadriplegics or nothing out there, but we just rolling around with no arms, no legs, because we don't see each other in that light. We don't see it like I need her and she needs me. A black woman needs a good Aboriginal black man. A black man needs a good Aboriginal black woman. Whoever told you different is your enemy.
That's right.
Do you understand? Whoever tells you different, even if that person was your mama that told you you didn't need a good man or told you didn't need a good woman, they lied to you. They are your enemy. Cut it. Hey, in the Bible, it says, hey, sometimes you got to cut mama off.
That's right.
Sometimes you might have to hate your old mother for my sake. That's what it's talking about. It ain't talking about nothing spooky. Sometimes the people in our family can be just so ignorant and so bogged down by this world's way of doing things that it could be very detrimental. And I'm going to close with this. On December 21st, which is tomorrow, you got this running trend. People talking about black folks going to have superpowers tomorrow because of something going on with Saturn and Jupiter and the stars and all this astrology and whatever. It shows how spooky we still are. Even though a lot of it is in jest and is joking, some people really believe in this. But let me say this. There's already a formula for us to be superhuman. And that's for us to have each other. For us to believe in revolutionary relationships. That's why you have a hard time finding an impactful, legendary black man that was not in an impactful, legendary black relationship. Think of one. I didn't say, now when I say impactful and legendary, first thing your mind went to was fame and money. No, I'm talking about impactful. A lot of them, you know, died broke and their family didn't get money until after they died, like Dr. King, Malcolm X. They didn't have a whole lot of money when they were here, you know. But think about an impactful, legendary black man who was not in an impactful, legendary black relationship. You cannot find one. So we are superheroes when we have each other. And what's interesting is, look at the so-called situation that's going to happen in the stars and astrology. It's based on the fact that the closest conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, they're going to come together. Check this out. Jupiter and Saturn, according to astrologers, astronomers, I should say, Jupiter and Saturn will appear so close together on December 21st that it will seem almost as though they are a single star. I'm gonna say that again. We're going to get up out of here. Jupiter and Saturn will appear so close together on December 21st, 2020, that it will seem almost as though they are a single star. What is God trying to tell us? Like that old Color Purple song. God is trying to tell. What is he trying to tell us? And keep in mind, Saturn does have a ring on it. It does have a ring on it. So keep that in mind, man. That's where our superpowers are. Not in some spookiness going on in the stars. You know, turn off Netflix for a minute. Put the comic book down, bruh. And understand that our real superpower is in us. Because when a black man and a black woman come together, they are reflecting the God. The God. Now, we're a faint reflection of God by ourselves, standing on our own 2 feet. But we really power up. We really man up and woman up when we go through the struggle of coming together. It's a struggle. Is it easy? Hell no. But show me one valuable thing that's easy to access. Diamonds, gold, rubies, oil. Come on. Show me one thing that is truly valuable, even in a materialistic standpoint, that's easy to attain. But we want something that's easy but extremely valuable. Nothing else in the world works like that, family. So with that said, I'm going to let my wife get the closing remarks, and we're going to get up out of here. I have a radio show that I was invited to speak on, and we'll get to it. Go ahead.
I'm going to be short and sweet. I just want to say that when we're derelict in our duties to one another, our spouses, our significant other, you're not really hurting that person, and you're not really derelict to them. Ultimately, you are derelict to the God, and you are derelict to yourself. So we need to keep that in the forefront of our mind, so that we know that we need to feel our duty to each other first and foremost by fulfilling our duty to Allah God, because He is the one who appointed us of our roles and our roles in the position of helpmeet, husband, and wife. And that's it.
All praises due to Allah. With that said, family, y'all be safe. When you get your superpowers tomorrow, be smart about your superpowers. But the greatest superpower you can have is learning how to love the opposite. That's how you put it together, like Voltron. When we come together, that's where our power is. And as soon as we realize that, we won't have to rely on some spooky, astronomy and astrology and all this foolishness. But with that said, family, we're going to leave you as we greeted y'all in the words of peace. Thank you all for chiming in. Hit us up, NationTown, Cash App, $NationTown. Hit us up on nationtownstore.com. And go to NOI.org and watch today's message from our beloved National Representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Student Minister Ismail Muhammad. Man, he went in, man. It's the message of the hour right now. So with that said, we leave you as we greeted you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.